Hey there, so hopefully you like that little bit of a preview. So in today's video I'm going to be building something like this. Essentially I saw this product online about a half a year ago, and when I looked at the product details a little further, I wanted something like this in my office. But looking at it, I realized that it was 450 pounds, and that converts to about 600 US dollars. So definitely something that I wasn't willing to buy or have shipped overseas for, and I figured that I could build it myself. So that's today's video. So we started off the project by going to our local Lowe's and picking up 2 sheets of plywood. We had the employees there cut down the sheets of plywood for us just to make it easier to carry in and out of the car. We also got 2 or 3 offcuts from that, and we also got piano hinges and dowels for later on in the build. I brought those into my garage and set them onto my sawhorses. You can see here that I'm building sort of a template so that the spacing of my holes is about even. I have the spacing at about 3.5 inches, and then I marked those and used a 3/4 inch Forstner bit to drill those holes. I'm using a speed square to try to keep my drill at 90 degrees so that when I put the actual dowels in, they don't sag or anything, but I kind of gave up on that pretty quickly. Then after making that template, I used my tape measure and just marked along the entire length of the board and just marked at 3.5 inches also. Then I just clamped my template onto the board and just drilled in those holes. The nice thing about the template is it keeps even spacing all along, so nothing kind of looks out of place when it's finally said and done. After a few rows, I noticed that my Forstner bit was getting a little bit hot, so I also attached a shop vac here to kind of vacuum up the scraps that were coming out. I used these little markings to keep track of where I was and to move my template down to about 3.5 inches down to get to the next row. And I just continued this on for 17 more rows, I think, and then continued that on for the next 3 boards. At this point I'm essentially freehanding everything, and I'm definitely not getting it at 90 degrees, just close enough as possible. I know that there are guides out there, but those guides were kind of expensive, and the ones that I could find at an affordable price only fit up to, I think, 3/8 of an inch, and here I'm using 3/4 of an inch, so that couldn't work for me. The results I got were perfectly fine for me. So now I wanted to round off the corners for each of these panels, so I just got a spray can and got that to the edge and then just traced the outline of that circle to build a radius. I then got my jigsaw, and I know that I'm not sawing an exact 90-degree line here, but I do clean it up afterwards with my random orbital sander, and I just bring it up to the line to kind of cheat into there and get as close of a radius as possible to what I originally had planned. So next would be building the little shelves that hold the trinkets onto the dowels of the boards. And so you can see here that I'm using 3 different sizes just to display a variety of different things. I'm using the offcuts that I mentioned at the beginning of the video and just splitting them in half. I believe that they become about 6 inches deep, and then I'm using my miter saw to just get the correct width of those. And then just cleaning it up a little bit on the router table by just adding a little bit of a bevel at the end. For the sizing of the shelves, I know that each of the holes is about 3.5 inches wide, so I'm just adding 2 inches on each side. So for a small one of these shelves, 2 times 3.5 is 7, so that would become 9 inches. I cut all the dowels at a standard length and just rounded those over on my random orbital sander, and this is a preview of what it looks like. I then sanded all the panels at 220 just to kind of knock down any splinters and trying to just smooth it out before putting any finish on it. So for this project I'm using wipe on poly, and it'll be my first time using it actually, and I chose it because it seems easy to apply and you can't really mess it up. You just kind of lather it on, soak it into the wood, and any spots that might have too much you just kind of wipe off, and it dries really quickly and it's fairly cheap. Like, I've got 4 of these panels and I only had to get 2 of these small cans. So this is what it looks like after 1 coat, and this is sort of the difference between it raw and with the coat on it. I probably could have stopped there, but I decided to sand it one more time and then apply another coat, and this would give it just more protection and also just make it that much more smooth. So here's the final coat, and every time that I would do one side, I would wait an hour before flipping it to the other side. I also remembered to definitely get the edges because those parts are definitely prone to splintering. Once everything was dry, I put the panels on top of each other to put the piano hinge onto it to combine them all together. I used painter's tape to kind of keep it in place for me as a second pair of hands while I drilled in the holes. I did use an awl to get the center of these holes, so that when I am drilling, it is in the absolute center. And then I just used the instructions on the packaging for the piano hinges to screw this in. I did the top part of the panel also and removed the painter's tape and then set it on the floor to see how I liked it and see if anything needed adjusting, but it looked really good from here. You can see that I've got it probably about 2 feet from each edge, and that worked out well for me. So instead of bringing about 150 pounds of plywood into the office by myself, I decided to just assemble it in the room. I then tried to stand it up by myself, but yeah, it didn't turn out so well. Definitely should have had a second pair of hands, but luckily nothing was damaged. So here's my office and what it looked like. And before I do a final reveal, I decided to also refinish the room a little bit. I took all the furniture out, including my desk and monitors and computers. I then prepped the floor for all the paint and got to painting. I'm using this one color named Olympus White. I think that's the name of the color, but it's sort of like gray, bluish, and definitely not the nursery pink that I had in this office before. And I think that it goes well with sort of like that, feeling of focus in an office. So that's why I chose this color. While the paint was drying, I also decided to make some floating shelves for myself. And this is just a 1x2, a 1x6, and a 1x8, I believe, and just glued together and then nailed together. And these are probably about 24 inches wide. After the glue had dried a little bit, I then applied a stain named Early American from Minwax, and it's sort of like this rustic looking color that I really like. So at this point, everything was pretty much ready, and I just had to put the room back together. Alright, so it's been a few months since I redid the office, and I've grown into it, as well as these plants that I bought in the summertime. And I can definitely say that I enjoy working here. It's a lot easier to focus on work and kind of just get in the zone and those sorts of things. And that was the entire point of this entire project. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, give it a like button. If you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing, and leave a comment if you have any questions. I know I kind of skimmed over a few points. And if you are new to the channel and are subscribed, sorry I haven't put out any videos in a long time. A little personal stuff, just got married, and then also started a new job, which is why I also had the time to redo the office. And yeah, a lot of things in life have been going on, but I think things have finally settled down to the point where I can start making YouTube videos again. I would say that all those things that were keeping me busy were also keeping me from doing home projects, and home projects I can't really make YouTube videos of if I'm not doing them. So look forward to more videos in the future.